Beloved, beloved, listen to me very carefully today, because what I am about to share with you is not an ordinary teaching. This is a revelation that came to me in the early hours when the heavens were still dark and the earth was still quiet. The Bible tells us in Psalm 5-3, "My voice shalt thou hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up." Do you understand what this means? Before the sun rises, before the enemy wakes, before the cares of this world flood your mind, before the bills and the debts and the worries come knocking on your door, God is waiting for you. He is waiting in the silence of the dawn to release something over your life that the daylight hours can never give you. There is an ancient Hebrew psalm, a prayer prayed by King David himself, a man who went from a shepherd boy with nothing to a king whose storehouses overflowed. And when this psalm is spoken before sunrise with faith, with a believing heart, heaven begins to move on your behalf. Financial blessing does not fall on the lazy or the doubtful. It falls on those who position themselves in the secret place, in the quiet hour, and cry out to the God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Today, I am going to teach you this psalm. I am going to show you how to pray it, and I promise you, if you receive this word into your spirit, your financial breakthrough is closer than you think. The Hebrew psalm, Psalm 112-130. Praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. His seed shall be mighty upon earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed. Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever. Beloved, there is something holy, something almost beyond this world about the hour before the sun rises. I want you to think about this with me for a moment. In this hour, the streets outside your window are empty. The cars are not honking. The children are not yet crying for breakfast. The phone that normally buzzes 40, 50, 60 times a day with messages and notifications and demands from this world, it is silent. The television is off. The radio is off. The noise of business, the noise of politics, the noise of every voice trying to pull your attention in 1,000 directions, all of it is silent. And in that silence, beloved, something happens that cannot happen at any other hour of the day. God is not competing for your attention in the hour before dawn. He does not have to shout over the television. He does not have to compete with your boss calling you, with your children needing you, with the endless scroll of your phone pulling your eyes downward instead of upward. In the hour before sunrise, when the world has not yet demanded anything from you, God has your full and undivided attention. And beloved, I tell you, that is exactly where He wants you. Look at what David said. David, the shepherd boy who became a king, the man after God's own heart, the man whose storehouses overflowed with wealth, and whose kingdom expanded beyond anything he could have imagined when he was tending sheep in the field. David said, "My voice shalt thou hear in the morning. O Lord, in the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up." Notice, beloved, he did not say, "In the evening when I am tired, when I have nothing left to give, I will offer God my leftovers." No, he said, in the morning. He gave God His first, His freshest, His most alert hour. He gave God the hour before anyone else could get to Him. This is a principle that so many believers have missed, and it has cost them their breakthrough. You see, whoever gets to you first in the morning shapes the rest of your day. If your phone gets to you first, if the first thing you do when you open your eyes is check your messages, check your bank account, check the news, then you have allowed the world to set the tone of your entire day, your entire week, your entire year. But if God gets to you first, if before your feet even touch the floor, you turn your heart toward heaven and you speak His word, then you have allowed the Creator of heaven and earth to set the tone of your life. Beloved, when you become someone's first thought, you know what happens? They move heaven and earth for you. Think about it. When someone thinks of you first thing in the morning before anyone else, you know that you matter to them. You know that you hold a special place in their heart. How much more, beloved? How much more will the God of heaven, the God who spoke galaxies into existence, the God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, the God who has more resources than every bank and every government and every corporation on the face of this earth combined, how much more will He move on your behalf when you make Him your first thought, your first word, your first act of the day? This is why I am teaching you to speak this psalm before sunrise. It is not a magic formula. It is not a superstition. It is a positioning of your heart. When you rise while it is still dark and you speak the words of this ancient Hebrew prayer, you are declaring to heaven, Lord, you are not an afterthought in my life. You are not something I turn to only when everything else has failed me. You are my first thought, my first word, my first act, and heaven responds to that kind of devotion. I have seen this in my own life and ministry. Beloved, the greatest breakthroughs, the greatest financial miracles, the greatest turnarounds I have witnessed, they did not happen because someone prayed a long prayer in the middle of the afternoon between meetings. They happened because someone got desperate enough, hungry enough, determined enough to rise before the sun and meet God in the secret place. There is an intimacy available in that hour that simply cannot at any other time of day. The distractions are gone. The excuses are gone. It is just you and your Maker. And in that sacred meeting place, financial mountains begin to move. Think about the enemy's strategy, beloved. The enemy does not want you to discover the power of the early hour. He will do everything he can to keep you in bed, to keep you scrolling on your phone at midnight so that you oversleep, to convince you that sleep is more valuable than seeking the face of God. But I am here to tell you, every hour of sleep you sacrifice to seek God in the morning, He will pay back to you in blessing that money cannot buy. He will give you clarity for your business decisions. He will give you favor with people who hold the keys to your next opportunity. He will give you ideas in that quiet hour that will become the very ideas that unlock the financial breakthrough you have been waiting for. So, beloved, before the sun rises tomorrow, I want you to set your alarm. I want you to rise while the world is still sleeping. I want you to find a quiet place, your bedroom, your kitchen table, your car, if that is all you have. And I want you to speak the words of this psalm over your life, not rushed, not distracted, slowly, carefully, with faith rising in your heart as you speak. Because in that hour, beloved, heaven is listening in a way that it is not listening at any other hour of the day. And what you release in that sacred silence will echo into every area of your finances for the rest of this year. Beloved, I want you to look very closely at the words of this psalm, because there is a phrase in it that so many people read past without understanding its true weight. The psalm says, "Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord." Now, when many people hear the word fear, they immediately think of something negative. They think of a slave cowering before a harsh master, terrified of being beaten. They think clear as throat of a child hiding in a corner, afraid of a father's anger. And beloved, if that is what comes to your mind when you hear the fear of the Lord, I want to correct that image right now, because that is not the fear the Bible is talking about. The fear of the Lord that David speaks of in this psalm is not the fear of a slave. It is the fear of a beloved child who so deeply loves and honors their father that the very thought of grieving him breaks their heart. It is the fear of reverence. It is the fear of awe. It is the fear that says, I stand in the presence of a holy and majestic God, and I will not treat Him casually. I will not treat him as common. I will not walk into his presence with the same attitude I walk into a store or a restaurant. This is a heart posture, beloved, and it is this heart posture, this reverence, this awe, this holy respect that opens doors in the spirit realm that arrogance and entitlement can never open. Think about this, beloved. How many people do you know who approach God only with demands? God, give me this. God, I need that. God, where is my breakthrough? God, why haven't you blessed me yet? There is nothing wrong with bringing your needs to God. He invites us to do that. But when that is the whole of your relationship with Him, when there is no reverence, no awe, no honoring of who He is, then you have reduced the Almighty God to nothing more than a vending machine. You put in a prayer, you expect a blessing to fall out. And if it does not come fast enough, you get angry and you walk away. Beloved, that is not the posture of someone who fears the Lord. That is the posture of someone who wants what God has, but does not want God Himself. But watch what happens when reverence enters the picture. When you come before God not with a demanding spirit, but with a humble and broken heart. When you recognize that you are standing before the one who spoke the universe into existence with nothing but His voice, the one who set the boundaries of the ocean and told it this far and no further, the one who knows the number of hairs on your head and the number of stars in the sky, something shifts, your prayers change. They stop being demands and they start being worship. And beloved, worship moves the heart of God in a way that demands never can. Malachi 3:10 tells us that God says, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it." Notice, beloved, these windows of heaven do not open automatically for everyone. They open in response to a particular posture, a posture of honor, a posture of obedience, a posture of reverence. When you fear the Lord, when you honor Him with your finances, with your time, with your worship, with your obedience, you position yourself to receive a blessing so overwhelming that you will not have room enough to hold it. I want you to understand something, beloved. The windows of heaven do not open for the proud. Pride says, I deserve this. I have earned this. Give it to me now. But reverence says, Lord, I am unworthy of your blessing, and yet I trust in your goodness and your faithfulness to provide for me according to your word. That kind of humility is rare in this generation, but it is exactly the kind of heart that heaven responds to. Proverbs tells us that God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. If you want the grace of God flowing into your finances, into your business, into your household, you must approach Him with a heart that fears Him, not a heart that demands from Him. This is why, beloved, when you speak this psalm before sunrise, I want you to do it on your knees if your body allows it. I want you to lower yourself physically as a sign of what is happening in your spirit. There is something powerful about the posture of your body reflecting the posture of your heart. When you kneel before God in that quiet hour, you are saying, Lord, I am not equal to you. I am not demanding from you as though I have some kind of leverage over you. I am coming to you in humility and awe and reverence, and I trust that you, out of your great love, will move on my behalf. Beloved, this reverent fear is not meant to make you pull back from God. It is meant to draw you closer to Him. A child who reveres their father does not run away from him. They run toward Him because they know that in His presence is safety, provision, and love. When you fear the Lord in this holy way, you will find that you do not feel distant from Him. You feel closer to Him than ever before, because reverence removes the arrogance that keeps so many believers at arm's length from the very blessings they are asking for. So, beloved, as you speak this psalm in the quiet hour before sunrise, examine your heart first. Ask yourself, am I approaching God with reverence, or am I approaching Him with entitlement? Am I honoring Him as holy, or am I treating Him as common? Because the windows of heaven are ready to open over your finances, over your household, over your business. But they open especially for those who fear the Lord, who delight greatly in His commandments, and who come before Him not with demands, but with humble and reverent hearts, ready to receive whatever He, in His infinite wisdom and generosity, chooses to pour out. Beloved, I want you to look again at the words of this psalm. His seed shall be mighty upon earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed. Now, I want you to slow down with me on this verse, because there is a revelation here that will change the way you pray forever. This blessing that David is speaking of was never designed to stop with one man. It was never designed to be a single generation's harvest, enjoyed and then forgotten. This blessing was designed to flow like a river from one generation to the next and the next and the next, carrying financial provision, favor, and divine inheritance far beyond the lifetime of the one who first prayed it. Think about this, beloved. When you speak this psalm before sunrise, you are not simply praying for yourself. You are not simply saying, God, bless my bank account today. You are doing something far greater. You are standing in the gap between the past and the future. You are declaring blessing backward over the struggles that tried to define your bloodline. And you are declaring blessing forward over children who have not even been born yet. This is generational warfare, beloved, fought and won in the quiet hour before the sun rises. I want you to consider how the enemy works, because understanding his strategy will help you understand why this prayer matters so much. The enemy does not simply attack individuals. He attacks bloodlines. He studies patterns. He looks at a family and he says, this family has struggled with poverty for 3 generations. Let me make it 4. This family has known lack and debt and scarcity. Let me make sure the children inherit this. Same spirit of lack that gripped their parents and grandparents. This is why you see certain families where poverty seems to repeat itself generation after generation. Not because they lack intelligence or effort, but because there is a spiritual pattern that has never been broken, never been confronted, never been prayed against. But beloved, just as curses and cycles of lack can be passed down through a bloodline, so can blessing, so can abundance, so can favor. This is exactly what David understood when he wrote this psalm. He was not simply thinking about his own wealth. He was establishing a spiritual inheritance that would flow to his children, to his children's children, to a generation of upright people who would carry the blessing forward long after he had gone to be with the Lord. This is why the psalm says, the generation of the upright shall be blessed. Not just the upright man, but the generation. The blessing is designed to multiply across time, not just across your one single lifetime. I want you to think about your own children right now, beloved, whether they are already born or whether you are still praying for them to come. I want you to think about your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, the generations that will carry your name and your legacy long after you are no longer walking this earth. When you speak this psalm before sunrise, you are speaking a blessing over every single one of them. You are saying, Lord, do not let the financial struggles I inherited from my parents and grandparents continue into the lives of my children. Let this cycle stop with me. Let me be the generation that breaks the pattern of lack and establishes a new pattern of abundance. This is what I mean when I say wealth transfer. Beloved, it is not simply about you receiving a windfall, a bonus, an unexpected check in the mail. Though God can and does bless in those ways, it is about establishing a spiritual and financial inheritance so strong, so rooted in righteousness, that your children will not have to fight the same battles you fought. They will not have to claw their way out of debt the way you did. They will not have to wonder where their next provision is coming from the way you once did. Because you, in the secret place in the hour before sunrise, stood in the gap and declared blessing over their future before they ever knew they needed it. I have watched this happen in ministry over and over again. Beloved, I have watched families where the parents grew up with absolutely nothing, no education, no resources, no connections. And yet, because those parents made a decision to seek God faithfully, to pray generational blessing over their children, those children grew up to become business owners, professionals, people of great influence and financial capacity. The seed of righteousness that was planted in the secret place before sunrise became a harvest that outlived the one who planted it. This is why, beloved, when you pray this psalm, I want you to speak the names of your children if you have them. I want you to speak the names of children you are still believing God for. I want you to declare, Lord, let my seed be mighty upon the earth. Let my generation be known as an upright generation, a generation that honors you, and therefore a generation that is blessed in every area, spiritually, relationally, and yes, financially. Do not be shy about declaring financial blessing over your children. Beloved, the Bible does not treat wealth as evil when it flows from righteousness. It treats it as an inheritance, a tool, a resource that a righteous generation can use to further the kingdom of God and to bless others. Beloved, understand that what you do in the secret place in that quiet hour before the sun rises is not limited to that hour. It ripples outward. It reaches forward in time to touch people you have not even met yet. Your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, generations who will one day look back and recognize that their financial stability, their opportunities, their freedom from the cycles of lack that gripped their ancestors began with someone who was willing to wake up before dawn and speak an ancient Hebrew psalm in faith over a family line that God was about to transform forever. Beloved, I want you to look very closely at the closing words of this psalm because they contain a distinction that so many people in this world have never understood. A distinction that once you grasp it will completely change the way you pursue wealth for the rest of your life. The psalm says, wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever. Notice, beloved, these two things are placed side by side. Wealth and riches on one hand and righteousness on the other. They are connected. They are not separate. And this connection is the key to understanding why some wealth lasts for generations, while other wealth vanishes as quickly as it came. Beloved, there are two kinds of wealth in this world, and I want to make sure you can tell the difference between them because your financial future depends on it. There is wealth that comes through the world's ways, through shortcuts, through fraud, through greed, through stepping over other people to climb higher, through gambling, through schemes that promise overnight riches. And then there is wealth that comes through righteousness, wealth that flows from a heart aligned with God, from diligence, from integrity, from wisdom, from obedience to biblical principles of stewardship and generosity. Beloved, these two kinds of wealth may look the same when you first receive them. A bank account full of money looks the same, whether it came through righteousness or through wickedness. But I tell you, their endings are not the same. The Bible warns us again and again about wealth that is gained through unrighteous means. Proverbs tells us that wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. Think about how many stories you have heard, beloved, of people who won the lottery, who came into sudden riches through no righteous labor or wisdom of their own. And within a few short years, that wealth was completely gone, not just reduced, but gone entirely. And often their lives were left in worse condition than before they received the money. Why does this happen so often? Because wealth without righteousness has no root. It has no foundation. It is like a plant with no roots. It may spring up quickly, but it withers just as quickly because there is nothing underneath it to sustain it. But watch what happens with righteous wealth, beloved. When wealth flows from a heart that fears the Lord, from hands that work with integrity, from a life that honors God with tithes and offerings, from a spirit of generosity rather than greed, that wealth has roots. It has a foundation. And the Psalm tells us this foundation is nothing less than righteousness itself, which endureth forever, beloved. When your wealth is connected to something eternal, something that cannot be shaken, something that does not depend on the stock market or the economy or the moods of other people, that wealth becomes stable in a way that worldly wealth can never be. I want you to understand, beloved, this is not a prosperity message that tells you wealth is your only goal or that money will solve every problem in your life. No, this is a message about the source and the character of your wealth. God is not simply interested in making you rich for the sake of being rich. He is interested in you becoming a righteous person whose righteousness naturally produces wealth as a byproduct, wealth that then becomes a tool in your hands to bless your family, to bless your church, to bless the poor, to advance the kingdom of God on this earth. This is why the Psalm connects wealth and riches with his house. Not just his bank account, but his entire household, his entire family structure, his entire sphere of influence. Righteous wealth does not just sit in an account collecting for one person's pleasure. It fills a house. It touches everyone connected to that house. It becomes a blessing that flows outward. Beloved, when you speak this psalm before sunrise, I want you to make a declaration in your heart that the wealth you are asking God for is wealth that will endure. Not a quick windfall that disappears within a year, but a lasting financial foundation built on the rock of righteousness. Ask God to purify your motives, even as you ask Him for provision. Ask Him, Lord, do not just give me money. Give me the righteousness that produces lasting wealth. Teach me to be diligent. Teach me to be generous. Teach me to be wise with what you entrust to me, so that what I receive does not just fill my pocket for a season, but fills my household for generations. I have seen this principle proven true again and again. Beloved, I have watched people who receive sudden wealth through worldly means lose everything within a matter of years. Their families torn apart, their peace destroyed, their name disgraced. And I have watched people who build their wealth slowly, faithfully, through righteous labor and obedience to God, end up with households that were not just financially secure, but spiritually strong. Families that stayed together, legacies that were passed down intact from one generation to the next. This is the difference, beloved, between money and righteous riches. Money can be here today and gone tomorrow, but righteous riches, riches connected to a righteousness that endures forever, those riches build something that outlasts you. So, beloved, as you rise before the sun tomorrow and you speak the words of this ancient psalm, do not just ask for wealth. Ask for the righteousness that produces enduring wealth. Ask God to align your heart, your motives, your work ethic, your generosity with His righteous standards, so that when the financial blessing comes, and beloved, it will come, it will not be a fleeting windfall that vanishes as quickly as it arrived, but a lasting foundation, a wealth that fills your house, that blesses your generations, and that stands firm because it is rooted in a righteousness that endures forever. Beloved, As we come to the close of this teaching today, I want you to hear my heart. This was not just a message to inform you. It was a message to activate something in you. We have walked through this ancient Hebrew psalm together. We have seen how the hour before sunrise carries a power that no other hour of the day can offer. We have seen how a heart that fears the Lord, not with terror, but with reverence and awe, opens the very windows of heaven over your finances. We have seen how the blessing you carry is never meant to stop with you, but to flow into the lives of your children and your children's children. And we have seen the difference between wealth that vanishes and riches that endure because they are rooted in righteousness. Beloved, I want to be honest with you. Knowledge alone will not change your life. You can listen to this message 100 times, and if you never rise before the sun, if you never speak these words over your life in faith, nothing will change. The blessing is not activated by hearing, it is activated by doing. So tonight, before you sleep, I want you to set your alarm. I want you to choose a time before the sun rises. It does not have to be extreme. It simply has to be before the noise of the world reaches you. And when that alarm sounds, I want you to rise, even when your body wants to stay in bed, even when the flesh tells you it is too early, too hard, too inconvenient. Rise anyway. Find your quiet place, open your heart, and speak this psalm. Psalm 112 over your life, over your finances, over your household, over your generations to come. Beloved, do not do this once and give up. Make this a covenant with God, a covenant that says, Lord, I will seek you first before I seek anything else this day. Watch what happens over the next 30 days as you remain faithful to this practice. Watch how doors begin to open that you did not even know existed. Watch how ideas come to you that solve problems you have been wrestling with for years. Watch how favor begins to surround you in your workplace, in your business, in your relationships. This is not magic, beloved. This is the natural result of positioning your heart before the God who owns everything in heaven and on earth.